Welcome, friends and strangers. It is April 15th, 2022, doing a little weekend wrap up, going into Easter weekend here. I have a good show for you today, if you want to call it a show. I got good information that I want you to follow and look at. But before I get into that, a little rant. I seen there's a meme going around. It's been going around for a while. I mean, it's been said quite a few times too, but it goes a little something like this. Why don't they teach us about money in school? Why don't they teach us how to pay taxes? Why don't they teach us about credit cards and debt? Why don't they teach us how to whatever about money, right? I just got back from Orlando in a business convention, and it was funny because the main guy that was talking, he said this. He said, if you want to learn how to become a millionaire, go hang around millionaires. But how many millionaire teachers do you know? Of all the teachers that are in school when you K through 12, out of all the ones that are there, how many of them have their lives figured out? I mean, let's honestly, because we need to have come to Jesus conversations about a lot of this stuff, and it's painful and hurtful to hear, but we need to do it anyway. So it begs this question of, we're all complaining about everything. We're all blaming all these people and all these things that really aren't the cause of it, in the grand scheme of things anyway. Certainly not the cause of what's going on. But the reason why they don't teach you is because people are indifferent to it. Parents are indifferent to it. I've heard it a lot because I've talked about this stuff for 30 years, and that is, well, economics is boring, and I don't want to know about money. Well, if you have a lot of people that feel that way, of course they're going to take it out of the curriculum. But the second thing, which is the biggest thing, and the reason why they don't, is that, and this is a coming to Jesus conversation again. We have a system that's run by money. The whole thing runs on money. The whole world runs on money. And if you don't understand what money is, how it's created, the role of credit expansion and the debt markets, and how money's introduced into the marketplace anyway to begin with, and the role of the Fed and all this stuff. If you don't understand it, then, I mean, the people that are controlling it, are they experts? And if they're experts, why are we complaining? And if they're not experts, why are we listening to them? You see what I'm saying? It harkens back to something Henry Ford once said, that it is well the American people don't understand their banking system, for if they did, there'd be a revolution before tomorrow. And that statement, that quote, is 100% pristine and perfect. It's absolutely true. Your whole system runs on debt. It says it right on your money. It's a Federal Reserve note. A note is an instrument of debt, and those that are controlling this thing, they don't want you to know. Why would they give you the means and mechanisms necessary to gain financial freedom and solvency? And ultimately, if you ever found out how it really, really is, you'd be pissed. Like, you would. And so it's just kind of easier to go along sometimes, and we're that way. Humans are, by the way, I think it's an interesting note too, that this is a YouTube video, so you can hit the 1.25 or 1.5 times, and then that's what I do with videos. I just listen really fast and get through them faster. But because I feel like I should talk like that that mini guy that talked really fast in the commercials years ago. I wish I could do that. I wish I could just tell everything I had to say and blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to give you some information about this stuff, and it's important. It's important because I honestly, I don't want to say it because it's so dark, but I don't think we're coming out of this in a very good way if they continue to do, if the Fed, Treasury, and all those experts continue to do what they're doing, we're not going to come out of this smelling very good. So I'm going to show you a real quick picture. This is the U.S. 10-year Treasury. Remember last week we were sitting, was it last week or a week and a half ago? Not too long ago, we were under 2.5. It's 2.8. And what I said was it's going to continue to be volatile, this market, but it's probably going to be going. And I said this, if we hit the 3-year, if we hit 3%, I'm going to throw the yellow flag. If we hit 3.5%, that's going to be a fun show. Well, that's going to be a fun one to do. But I said it would be volatile, and look at the volatility. If I condense this down, I'm not going to do it, but if I condense it down to 5 days, you'd see even more peaks and valleys in this chart. But a definitely steady growth up, and we're seeing it come to play in the mortgage markets and lending markets. So that is definitely something to pay attention to. I'm going to keep beating that dead horse for sure. U.S. 10-year Treasury. So now what you're looking at is a graph, and I wanted to blow up the portion on the right here so you could see it a little bit better. But you're looking at M1, M2 money supply. The M1 money supply is the red. The M2 is the blue. M1, and get this is good information. Understand it. M1 is liquid money. It's money out in the market. It's moving. Talk about velocity of money and all this stuff. That's what's moving right now. M2 is M1 plus. Let's just call them semi-liquid holdings. Okay. If you look at this area here, it's hard to do backwards. Doing. I'll get there. Folks. Hang in. Oh, we're right there. Right there. I'm going to show you on a different graph this point, so remember that. But what we have there is M1 and M2 splitting off. Now, they can say that part of the reason why M1 shot up so much, and look at the date, by the way, folks, 2020. What happened about February 2020? What we can say that some of the M2 money came out of M2 and went into M1. I'm not going to argue that. That certainly could be the case. I don't have the data anywhere, and I'm not going to find it because I don't care. I don't care necessarily even about M1. I focus on M2 because it's cash and checking and check balances and that money which could easily be converted to easily go into M1. Well, what do you think happens when you have cash injection from the Fed, people pulling money from other markets to make more liquid, and you have a dwindling supply of product? And not only that, but the product you do have is getting clogged up in supply chains. What do you think is going to experience that? Not to mention the fact that we can still borrow. The credit market hasn't tightened up. So if all of these things are coming into play, of course we're going to have inflation. Now, we had inflation before. It just so happens that COVID was a great, I'm not going to say excuse, but it was a very coincidental event that took place. I'm not saying don't read into it. I'm just saying that this graph here that you're looking at was already going up. Like I could trace this back to the beginning of time, basically when they started doing this, and you would see what I'm talking about. But that major jump right there, you're talking a 4 to 5-fold increase in money supply, cash liquid injection, in my opinion, straight from the Federal Reserve. This is a result of quantitative easing finally hitting the marketplace, in my opinion. I'm going to show you one more graph here real quick. So what you're looking at now is a longer timeline of the M1 money, M1 supply of money in the marketplace. This is all about inflation. I don't care what anybody says. You're staring at inflation. Those grayed out vertical bars, again, are recession periods. If you look at 2020, the far side, you see a big spike in that. But even before that, folks, this is why I say COVID just accelerated. That's why I said don't read anything into it. The statement about it being highly convenient of a place for COVID to happen. The inflationary pressure came well before COVID, and you're staring at it and you're looking at it. And this is what I wanted you to. This is why I said don't read into my statement. I think they're using COVID at the very least as an excuse to hide something that was already happening. Okay. So if we move over to the mid-90s, who was running for president that would have been awesome to have if you're a statist and want somebody to rule over you. At least pick those people that want to limit government and control spending and actually grow a stable economy. Well, who is that? Ross Perot. But we didn't vote for him because he talked funny and had big ears, right? Fast forward to 2008, right in that big wide recession bar. Who was running? Now, keep in mind too, and I've said this in the past, but when George Bush was president, we were trading oil at $145 a barrel, and we were still paying the same price we're paying at the pump today. Well, WTI Brent crude last week was trading at, and I've said this in another video, it was trading at about 102. I don't think it went up much this week. I haven't followed it, but if we're paying the same price at the pump, but we're paying a third percent less for gas wholesale, then either there's inflation there, or there's gouging, and I'm going to go towards inflation. They're hiding inflation, the petrodollar, and they can't control it anymore. The other countries of the world are sick of it. They're sick of the dollar hegemony that's been happening around the world, and that's what has been happening for a few years now. So if you look at 2008, well, who was running for president that we couldn't vote for then because it was too important of an election? Well, Ron Paul. And he wanted to do what? Audit the Federal Reserve and shut it down. Well, in the mid-90s, had we elected Ross Perot, we could have easily, without too much of a change in our lifestyle, went into a different kind of system, one that actually benefited everyone. And in 2008, you see a climb. And this is why I say we're beyond the knee curve in terms of exponential growth. There is no stopping this train. When it happens and when the true fallout of it happens, I don't know, because they could print money. They could start the printing presses up again and start just throwing money out of helicopters, and it would change the whole dynamic. So I'm not in control. The experts are in control. But if you look at 2008, had we elected Ron Paul, it would have been extremely painful to write the economic processes insofar as to move into a better system. It would have been painful. I don't think people would have been ready for it, but we would have survived for sure. At this stage in the game, I don't think that there's any way of correcting this in really getting a grasp on inflation, raising rates to the point where that's why I said in the other video, they can't raise rates high enough. And you're seeing why. It's hard to give too much information on these videos because then they get too long and too boring and too dry. I get it, folks, I do. But this is why I say what I say. And so at the end of the day, how does this impact the housing market? How does this impact buyers and sellers? Obviously, it's still a good time to sell. You can still gain, and I've said it before. This market can handle, specifically because new construction and new housing is way down. It's been down the last couple of years. It's certainly not keeping pace. Obviously, there's reasons. You all know the reasons why. But it's just exacerbating the whole problem of inventory. And the market at this point, interest rates are what, at a 5.25, somewhere give or take right now. The market can handle that. It's certainly at current inventory levels. But here's what I want to tell you, folks, and I'm going to leave it at this. Interest rates are cumulative. And so when we, not interest rates, CPI, inflation, it's cumulative. And so when we talk about year over year inflation, this right now it's 8.5%. 8.5%. Well, let's just say it ends at 8.5%. And let's say last year inflation, I don't know what it was. I'm just going to say 4.5%. And then next year's inflation is going to be 7%. Well, in a 3-year period, that's 20% inflation. You follow what I'm saying? Did your income rise 20% in the same 3-year period? Do you think your income, I got a feeling inflation is going to be higher than 7% last year, especially looking at the PPI, we're in trouble. But do you think your income by next year is going to be 20% higher than it was a year ago, or 25% higher than a year ago? No. This is why I say we haven't seen the end of it yet. So in terms of buying, I already say it, the market's good for selling. Do what you want to do. If you got a place to go, sell, get out, do it. But in terms of buying, you can't rent the same house uh, for the same monthly payment than you can buy it for. Still, it's been that way for a long time. It's still going on, and until rates, and this is why I say, until rates get to, until that U.S. 10-year Treasury, keep an eye on that. When that hits 3%, like I said, I'm gonna throw that cautionary flag out. At 3.5, I'm gonna say, okay, this is now. Now we need to analyze a few things, and so rental markets can change to then, inflation can change to then. So we'll see what happens at that point. But that's when I'll have a different take on what I'm about to say. But in terms of buying, why wouldn't you buy? Rates are still great in terms of putting a roof over your head. Speculation, no. Investing, yeah. The cap rate is right. If the cap rate is right, for sure I would buy investment properties right now, and in just a normal primary residence, for sure I would. So again, hopefully this information's useful to you. It needs to be useful to you. And send it out, like and subscribe, and send it out to your friends that you think would benefit, and get it going around, because this is a good source of information. It really is. I don't preach this stuff for myself. I want people to be aware and knowledgeable, and live up to that meme. If they don't, why don't they teach us this stuff? Well, here we go. So have a happy Easter, everybody. Have a safe weekend. Spend some time with your loved ones and enjoy that time. Until next time, we'll catch you later.